Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. This is Ben Kinney. Today, I am winning because I am joined with two friends, Bob Stewart and Chad Hymes. Say something.
Hello.
Winning, Ben. I'm excited to win today.
Can you guys hear the theme? The theme. As much as I would like to have Charlie Sheen cut in right now, yelling about tiger blood and winning, I don't get the opportunity to do that. I'm going to keep us on track, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to talk about winning. And I think the best way to do that is to start talking about winners. The first winner that I like to talk about, I'm going to share some quotes that she said and use your Trivial Pursuit Jeopardy skills to see if you know who this individual is.
Oh, we're playing a game. All right.
Yeah, for sure. She said, "In my prime, there's no goal too far, no mountain too high." She said, "Believe me, the reward is not so great without the struggle." Isn't that a powerful statement, everybody? Believe me, the reward is not so great without the struggle. Without the struggle, it is the struggle that makes it great. And one more quote. She said, "Winning is great, sure. But if you are really going to do something in life, the secret is learning how to lose. Nobody goes undefeated all the time. If you can pick up after a crushing defeat and go on to win again, you're going to be a champion someday," she said. If you can pick up after a crushing defeat and go on to win again, you're going to be a champion someday. This individual, and I heavily encourage you to go watch some videos and go do some research if you haven't heard of this person. She was the 20th child of 22, raised in poverty in Tennessee. She was affected, I believe, by polio at a young age.
And scarlet fever.
And scarlet fever. And because of that, she couldn't even walk. The doctors said that most likely she would never walk. But through hard work, commitment, leg braces, etc., therapy, she learned to walk.
By the way, the therapy took place 50 miles away from her home, and once a week her mom and her would get on a bus. She was between 8 and 12 years old, and they'd go on a 50-mile bus ride to the therapist and then a 50-mile bus ride home, and she did this for years.
And then at 16 years old, she ran in the U.S. Olympics, winning a bronze medal, and then came back 4 years later and won 3 golds. She was an African-American woman, born in poverty, from the South, who had to overcome massive types of adversity and ended up becoming the first woman to win 3 gold medals in a single Olympics session. She is one of the most inspirational, beautiful, amazing people that I've studied. Just watch her in the video and you can see just her energy. As Chad was saying earlier today, her aura, it just shined. You felt, you can just see it in her. And she was for sure a winner. And she wasn't a winner because she was born with it. She was a winner because she overcame defeat and adversity.
You know, I got a quote from her that I think sums that all up, Ben. And she said, "I believe in me more than anything in this world."
I believe in me more than anything in this world. Wow. Now, it was actually adapted into a movie in 1977 titled Wilma.
Wait, are you going to finally tell us her name?
He's given away a good hint here.
Yeah, for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to introduce you to Wilma Rudolph from Tennessee, born
June 23rd, 1940.
1940. She didn't spend a long time on Earth. She died at a relatively young age of like 53, if I remember right. Is that
54,
correct?
yeah.
54, yep.
54. Same year her mother passed as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well, Wilma died of cancer, and there isn't a lot of video of her, but there is some amazing video of her running and a couple interviews. And I heavily encourage you to go do the research and learn about Wilma Rudolph, because she was a winner. She was a winner. Now, the next winner that I want to talk about for a second, Bob, I feel like you're going to be a better expert on this individual because I study him as a leader, but I think you appreciate him for his role and for his contributions to the sport that he was a part of. Let's share a couple of quotes from this individual and see if you guys can guess who we're talking about. And then, Bob, why don't you walk us through a little bit of his history? The first thing that this individual said, this was a guy, Mr. He said, winning takes talent, but to repeat, that takes character. Do you hear that? Winning takes talent, but to repeat, that takes character. What a powerful statement, right? And I think about that because often you hear about people that could win. Those are not the impressive individuals. We interviewed an individual that wrote a book called Captain's Class. And what he wanted to go figure out was what made the most winningest teams in all history. And I highly recommend the Captain Class book to any of you, because Sam Walker, he's a phenomenal author, but he studied the most winningest teams in history. He wanted to figure out not what led a team to win once, but what led a team to win consistently year after year for long periods of time. And Bob Stewart, this individual, for sure, was that type of person, wasn't he?
Yeah, for sure.
What other quotes do we have that are worth sharing?
I've got a list, but Bob, why don't you go first since he's in your field that we're...
I like make each day your masterpiece.
Oh, yes.
Like this idea that he realized every day had the potential to be like, just a great day. And so he talked about making each day your masterpiece.
What if you're not making mistakes, then you're not doing anything?
That's one of my favorites.
I'm positive that doers make mistakes. You guys hear that? If you're not making mistakes, then you're not doing anything. I'm positive that a doer makes mistakes. That's why when there's a problem, and basically that's what a leader's job is. We manage problems, and there's problems in your business. If you're doing something, there's problems all the time. That's why, Bob, I don't let them get me all shooken up, because what it tells me we're doing something. It's easy to have something that never has a problem, but also means you have no innovation, you aren't pushing, and most likely you're not winning.
That takes me to this one, Ben, that success is never final, failure is never fatal. It's courage that counts, right? Success is never final. How many of us think, oh, made it, done it, stop. And failure is never fatal. How many times do we fail at something and too many people think that that's the end, right? It's courage that counts. And we could share quotes from this person for hours. I mean, we could do a whole episode on quotes. And as soon as Bob starts to tell you a little bit about who this person is and the winning that they bring, I think it'll become pretty obvious who this person is. Bob, tell us a little bit about some of the records this person holds.
So should I tell him who it is, or we just keep going on the Jeopardy thing?
Well, we made him wait a little while on Wilma, so give us some of the records. Some people will clue in quickly.
All right. So this gentleman comes from the basketball world, and specifically college basketball. And as a 5'10" guard, he became the first player ever, and this was back in the 1930s, to be named a 3-time All-American. So he would later become a coach, but he did the thing that he was then going to coach people to do later. and he was really good at it. However, when he became a coach, he had a good 15-year run before he ever kind of became the coach that we all know and look up to now. 15 years, he didn't do a whole lot of winning, but what he did and what he would say later is, it took me 15 years, but I learned a ton in those 15 years. Eventually, he would end up at UCLA, and by this point, if you don't know who we're talking about, you literally don't have a sports bone in your body, and that's okay. But prior to his arrival at UCLA, they hadn't really been anything. And in fact, what happened then over about the next 6 years is they took these incremental steps where all of a sudden he convinced his players and his coaches that they could win their league title. And then he convinced them that they could compete with some of the Kentuckys of the world out there. And then eventually they got to a point where, and again, a lot of defeat, right? But like Wilma Rudolph would have said, that created, he was able to deal with that defeat, able to make his teams deal with that defeat. Eventually they would lose in the semifinals of the NCAA championship. That last defeat would lead them into a sustained period of winning the NCAA basketball championship year after year after year. In fact, they won it 7 times in a row. No other team has ever won it more than 3 times in a row. John Wooden would become this legendary coach who would build some of the most storied program in NCAA basketball. At one point, they won 88 games in a row. A lot of these records are just still today totally untouched.
88.
Bob, that was 88 games they won in a row.
88 games in a row, yeah. Over the course of a couple of seasons, 7 straight national championships. At one point they changed the rules when that his team had Lou Alcindor, who would become Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and they actually changed the rules in college basketball because they'd become so dominant that they made rule changes around these guys to try to make other teams competitive.
So who are we talking about, Bob?
John Wooden. John, the legendary John Wooden. I told you this, Ben, when we were getting ready to, you mentioned the aura of Wilma Rudolph, and even just watching her on video. I had a chance to attend the 1995 Final Four. It was held in Seattle in the Kingdome, and UCLA was in the Final Four, and they made it to the final game. And I can remember to this day, John Wooden sat courtside at that game. And there's 50,000 people in the Kingdome. And at one point, I looked down on the sideline, and I swear to you, there was 100 people down there, and you could tell it was John Wooden. Like, I didn't know that. I was a 17-year-old kid. I don't know how much I knew about what he even looked like. We didn't have the internet back then, but you knew that guy sitting there was John Wooden. He had this light around him. It gives me goosebumps even thinking about it. He had this light around him where it was obvious this man was somebody special. From, I don't know how far I was away from, 100 yards away from him or 75 yards away. I was a long ways away, but you knew that was him, right? Just an aura that, obviously I think many of the greats have this kind of a feeling if you've ever been around somebody of that caliber.
John coached his last game March 1st, 1975. I'm not super good at math. That was 45 years ago. And he is still a legend in coaching. He is still revered as a leader and as an individual. He really only, except for a minor stint, coached at one place. He coached at UCLA.
He believed in contract and loyalty.
Yeah. He only ever kissed one woman in his life.
Yeah, and there's amazing stories to go along with that as well.
His wife. If you want a heartfelt story, look up John Wooden love letters. When his wife passed, I believe it was the 21st of the month.
Yes.
He wrote a letter to his wife on the 21st of the month, every month.
Yep.
From the month she passed until the time he passed. Every month.
He put it on her pillow that night when he would go to sleep. He would leave that note for her and then put it into a box.
This is an incredible individual for how he showed up in all areas of life. And if you were to like take a look at the lessons that he shared as a leader or as a coach, it'd be simple things that you need to be unselfish, that you should never be outworked, that peace of mind comes from knowing that you personally did your best, that if you practice well, you'll play well. Basically, you win off the court instead of on the court. That learning is really something that you do through repetition. And it really matches Chad with my model. He believed in simplicity. Why complicate something that is so simple? Yet he also cared about the details, because the little tiny things can make big things or big changes happen.
Absolutely. And Ben, anybody who's done any research on coach, they just call him coach. If you walked up to anybody in the basketball world and said coach, they're going to assume you're talking about John Wooden. He has his pyramid of success. And I got this feeling that that's going to be a whole episode we could put together where we can really dive into John Wooden's pyramid of success, kind of putting our twist on it, taking our lessons and breaking it down for everybody. Yet you have just picked two fantastic people when you're talking winning. Let's talk about how winners become winners, because everybody on this call is a winner and they want to get better at it. So Ben, let's jump into coach us, be our coach today. Let's talk about how do I become a winner?
Well, I tell you, the first lesson is what we started with, Chad, is winners study winners. And that's the first one that I'm gonna share with you. Winners study winners in their same field or in their same sport, but they also study winners outside of their field and outside of their sport. I'm not particularly a sports fan. You wouldn't catch me at night watching a basketball game or a football game or something like that. Yet I study them. I took the time to learn and figure out who Wilma Rudolph was, right? And who John Wooden was, because I want to study and understand the hearts, minds, and souls of winners. So the first thing that we're going to share with you is that winners study winners.
So I should be studying people in my industry. I should be studying people that do what I do and are ahead of me. Yet you're also saying I should go study other people that are successes. Just because I don't work in, computers doesn't mean I shouldn't be studying Steve Jobs. He's clearly a winner in that area. Just because I'm not in politics doesn't mean I shouldn't be studying some successful presidents that we've had in our country. Just because I'm not playing a sport doesn't mean I can't study these amazing athletes and the things they're doing.
Yeah, we study history, we study the present, right? We study people, and we focus on the little things that they do, those skills, and our own skills. So the next thing on my list is that winners practice. Winners practice. They never stop practicing. I run a lot of sales companies that sell stuff. And one of the rules of our company is that every day for 15 to 20 minutes during the workday, during the time that we pay you for, we are going to take that time and we are going to learn and we're going to practice. And I've had individuals come to me in the past, Chad, and say, "Hey, do I still have to come to this? I know all this stuff." And I said, "No, you're absolutely get a pass. You just have to be willing to stand up there and role play with me. And if you can beat me personally in sales scripts, you never have to come again." Now, that may sound a little weird or egotistical, but what I'm really telling them is I'm willing personally to continue practicing until my last day on the court. And I'm going to do whatever I can after hours, right, in my own time to make sure that these punk kids are not going to beat me when it came to my skills that I need to succeed as a leader or as a salesperson or whatever. Remember that winners, they never stop practicing, especially the skills that got them to where they are today. Whatever that is, sales, making baskets,
Jumping, right?
yeah, leadership,
Yep.
whatever. Figure out what is that core skill, people skills, relationship building, persuasion, right? Whatever. You got to make a commitment to always practice, not until you're good, but forever.
Ben, the reason I
Now-
like this, there's something in this idea of it's really hard to forget where you came from or how you got there when you're continuing to practice those things that got you there, right? I think a lot of, in some of the businesses we deal in, we run against these leaders that like maybe buy our product or something, and you can tell they've gotten out of practice, right? They're like, I don't know, those guys do that thing today, right? Something that I've always admired about you is you're continually in the business practicing, and I think your example of letting people out of scripting if they can beat you in it is a good showcase of that, right?
Yeah. And it goes right into what Wilma or John would say, right? They said the same exact things in their own ways to their own students, right? Or the people that they coach. Wilma eventually became a school teacher, actually.
Right.
That's why I said.
And John was a school teacher first.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, winners also seek mastery. Mastery is not only am I going to practice, but I personally, not for the purpose of awards or recognition or bragging, I want to be the best at what I do. In fact, I would walk into sales presentations early in my career, and I would say an affirmation, however silly it might be. I would repeat, I'm the best at what I do. I'm the best at what I do. I'm the best at what I do. And many of you will say that's super silly, but here's why. When I was saying that out loud as I was walking to somebody's door, the voice inside my head wouldn't talk. Either I talked to my brain by saying, I'm the best at what I do, I'm the best at what I do, I'm the best at what I do, or my brain was talking to me when I was silent saying, what if this doesn't work out? What if they don't like you? What if they won't buy this thing, right? What if you screw up? What if you forgot something? So I changed the conversation. I wanted to be the best at my industry. I wanted to be the best at my job, and I wanted to have the most knowledge. Well, another thing that winners do, and Wilma said it probably best, is winners learn from failure. Remember that Wilma said, nobody goes undefeated all the time. If you can pick up after a crushing defeat and go on to win again, you're going to be a champion someday. She also said, believe me, the reward is not so great without the struggle. Remember, winners learn from failure. A winner sees every failure as an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to improve themselves, or as an opportunity to do it all over again.
That is key right there, right? That they understand that it's always just an opportunity. No one's going to always win. No one's going to always get it perfect. No one's going to always get it right. The question is, are you learning from when you don't to say, what do I need to do next time? What do I need to go practice? What do I need to go master so that the next time that's not the thing that stops me from winning?
Yeah. Bob, winners are patient. They're even what I'd say patiently impatient. Remember, they're willing to put in the time so that they can see the massive growth in the future. We talk about that all the time in the phrase of compounding. The ability to understand that it's going to take day after day, week after week, month after month to get to where you finally want to be. And they're okay with that. Winners are patient.
So they understand that there's no overnight success. I mean, they understand that, gosh, Justin Bieber came onto the scene out of nowhere. I know you're a huge fan of his work, Ben. So Justin came out of nowhere to be a hit. But he didn't just start singing one day. He became a media sensation overnight, but he had been practicing his career in advance. He'd been practicing how to sing, perform, do all that stuff for years before anybody discovered him.
Yeah, Bob, you were a decent basketball player, right?
Yeah.
And how many baskets did you shoot before you had the best game of your life?
Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe. A lot.
You played basketball every day after school, didn't you?
Every single day from the time I was 7 years old until I was 18. 11 years of just every day.
Which brings me to another comment, Bob, is that winners create circles around them of other winners. And you had the opportunity to play basketball with some professional basketball players that ended up professionals, right?
Yeah, correct.
And they would clean your clock, or would you clean theirs?
One of them was like a sixth grader when I was 18, so I used to really whoop up on him. But he would keep coming back. I mean, this is seriously Luke Ridnour, right? This is a kid who he was a 6-foot white guy. He would go to the NBA. There's he's a 1 in 10 million type of a kid. He put himself around the best. His dad would bring him from Blaine down to Seattle. It's a 2-hour drive every weekend to go play against the best kids in our state. I got to play with kids like that, right? So yeah, I mean, there's when you're that age, you don't have much wisdom, right? So it's just as fun to go out and whoop up on the kids that aren't at your level. But you realize, especially looking at somebody like a Luke Ridnour, you realize you're really going to get good by surrounding yourself with other people that are going to push you, right? You're not going to get good beating up on the kids that you could beat up on.
So Ben, this is that concept of you don't want to be a big fish in a little pond. You're talking about making sure that if we are the big fish in that little pond, we quickly go find a bigger pond that we can surround ourselves in with other fish our size.
Otherwise, you end up with artificially low ceilings.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? And if you want to be tall someday, that's going to be a problem. You know what I mean? Well, another thing that winners do is they accept responsibility at all costs. It's almost like extreme ownership.
Yep.
Jocko.
Yep.
Is that right?
Willock.
Yeah. You don't just take ownership for things because you think it's the cool thing to do or you read it in a leadership book, right? You take ownership because you want to change things. Not just take credit for the failure. That's the easy leadership cliche thing to do in a book. The real thing is like, how can I use the failure of my department or my company or my team as an opportunity to move us forward again in the future? Lastly, winners understand that results, authority, title, and trophies are earned. They're not given. They are the summation of 10 years or 100,000 free throws or running 1,000,000 miles, right? It's just the summation of that. And those things don't make you. What makes you is how you show up every single day. Are you going to show up as a winner? Are you going to study winners yourself? Or are you going to sit in the passenger seat and just watch them on the big screen?
Ben, this is why I take, so I've got Kellen, my 13-year-old, he's getting to a point where he's actually winning real trophies. But my 4-year-old played in basketball at basketball league this year, his first little league, and they give every kid a trophy. And I can't stand this concept. It just to my core, I just don't understand it. So his trophy got to make it home, and now that thing has disappeared, and he'll get to have a trophy on his shelf when he actually won a trophy.
What do you mean it disappeared?
Tough dad right there.
I'm telling
Where'd
you.
it go, Bob?
Like your baseball collection that your mom threw away, Bob.
Yeah.
It just disappeared.
I hope he's listening to this episode and starts asking questions.
Well, he's 4, so if he's listening, he's it wouldn't
Learning a
surprise
lot.
me, these kids these days. But and look, it's not about the title, right? It's not about the trophy. It's about like the journey that got me to that trophy. And if you don't win, what was that journey about? I don't know. Maybe it was about learning how to lose and winning next time, but he can display that trophy.
Yeah. Do me a favor. If you enjoyed today's podcast, if you've been moved in any way by anything that we shared or said or anyone that we quoted, do me a favor. Go out there and watch a video or two on Wilma Rudolph. And then if you want to tear up a little bit, watch the John Wooden love letters video. It'll tear you up. And I tell you that if you're moved by the love letters, write us a love letter by going and giving us a review, a rating, and write the longest, best love letter that you've ever seen about what your favorite parts of the podcast is, which one of your favorite hosts they might be, and what your favorite episode was. It would mean a lot to us. Make sure you join our Facebook group. Reach out to us if you need anything. And how else do we end these things, Chad?
Well, Ben, I'm going to tell them that if they reach out to me, I'm happy to share your address if they want to send you a real love letter, because I know that you would appreciate those as they come along. Folks, like Ben said, please don't forget to rate and review the podcast. Make sure you're subscribed so you're getting these podcasts sent right to you. And don't forget, it's so easy to share the podcast. Tell people to text the word podcast to the phone number 59559. They just got to text the word podcast to the number 59559. They'll get a link sent right to them to make it easy for them to be listening alongside you. Until our next episode, wash those hands, and as always, do good.